Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you're watching this from. Thank you for tuning in to this week's WaterCooler Wednesday, where we are going to be talking about something that's a lot broader than maybe past topics where we zeroed in on one individual item. But this was an interview that we could not pass up because we are here with Raymond Rattey, right?
That's it.
Okay, you ever ask somebody how they, like, am I pronouncing your name right? And then they tell you that you are, but they say it in a way that you don't believe them. So, okay, so, all right, fine. Raymond Rattey, he says it with an accent, and it sounds beautiful. I say it, and it just sounds different. So, anyway, we're here with Raymond Rattey, who went from being a musician, which is a really cool profession, playing for some pretty big names in South Africa, to hitting COVID like the rest of us and deciding, let's start a global business. And he is now the leader of a team of, I believe, 12 individuals and growing, him and his partner at Podcast Connection. And so Raymond used to be a professional musician until the COVID pandemic ripped the rug out of the entertainment industry's feet. Having experience in marketing, promoting, and planning live events, he co-founded Podcast Connection and has helped many individuals and businesses with opportunities to be featured on digital stages called podcasts. And I am a proud client of theirs as well. So I could definitely say that they do amazing work, and really their employees are absolutely amazing. And I could say that with full confidence. If you are tuning in from wherever you're tuning in, make sure to say hello. We'd love to hear your questions and comments throughout the interview. But first, Raymond, welcome, first of all.
Thank you kindly.
And I warned Raymond that the first thing we're going to do is 6 in 60. So what this means is we're going to ask Raymond 6 rapid fire questions. He has a total of 60 seconds to answer all 6 questions. And just to give you a heads up, if you can get them all done in 60 seconds, you will be, I believe, the first. So no real pressure here. But let's start with the 6 in 60 and then jump in to learn more about your fascinating story. All right. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Here we go. All right. So Raymond, you're a musician. In your professional opinion, who is the greatest musician of all time?
John Petrucci from Dream Theater.
Interesting. Cool. Good. Nice choice. Recently, you decided to pick up and move to a different continent because why not? What was the most immediately obvious cultural difference?
The languages, everything around me was just weird.
Tell us one surprising similarity between being a musician and an employer.
Wow, that's difficult. You can't drink no, definitely not. You can't drink at work. That's not a similarity. Although you can if you're home.
Wait, so musicians don't drink at work?
They definitely do.
You are, so you're not scared of change, clearly, from your story. Can you offer one piece of advice to those who may be more resistant to change on how to open up a little bit more to those opportunities?
Yeah, just have an open mind and don't be scared to take on a challenge, or don't be scared to try something new, I guess.
Okay, we only have 60 seconds left. If we hit 0, we'll just call it 60 again. One trait of your favorite boss of all time. Go.
Of my favorite?
Yeah, favorite boss of all time.
Boss, okay. So I haven't had many bosses, but one trait of a boss that I had, his name was Robbie Wessels in South Africa, and he was probably the kindest person, the most generous person I've ever worked with, because he would pay for everything. Like, we would go to a restaurant and he would just be so generous. And even if you would go to his house, and he was just so generous. So I guess that would be my favorite trait of the previous boss.
There you go. So just buy your love. That's the secret, huh? And
Well,
number
it was
six,
genuine.
we all know the immense suffering that's come out of this pandemic. But we can't deny that there are some things that were pretty positive about the way we're going. What's one thing you would like to see stick around post pandemic?
I think the idea of working remotely, if there's one thing that COVID has taught us, is that we can work remotely and it works for so many organizations. Employees are less stressed, not having to spend time on the road. I would say most definitely just sticking from schedules to work from home, or even doing a combination of coming into work maybe a few days in the week and a few of the other days staying at home and working, especially if your business is able to do that.
Right. So sort of that flexibility that came from it. And you guys started
Exactly.
during COVID, right? So have you been 100% virtual since the beginning?
Yeah.
Wow.
100%. Yeah. So most of our agents or employees who work for us are all still working from home, and we just connect over Zoom. We're actually going to meet some of our employees for the first time now in December when I go back down to South Africa. We're going to do like a nice get together and like, end year, we call them end year functions in South Africa.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how do you and I want to get into, the crux of it and really learn what your backstory is, but how do you build that sort of trust when you've never even met an individual in person and now you're trusting them with your business?
Yeah, most definitely. It's a challenge because you have to screen people, and you obviously have to make sure that when you are deciding to go forward and work with people, you making sure that they are going to be, number one, like you said, trustworthy. Number
Mm.
two, that they're going to be disciplined to be able to work from home, because not everybody has the discipline to work from home. And then thirdly, you got to make sure that they have the skills to be able to do this work. So I guess what we do is we do a bit of a probation period, and that gives us quite a good insight if we want to continue working with somebody. So we generally give them like a month probation, and if we feel like it's not going to work out, and it's also a two-way relationship where they tell us like, hey, we tried this, no thanks, it's not going to work out. But thankfully, up to now, we actually haven't had an employee where we had to tell them, sorry, this is not working for us. So
You have not.
most of the people that have been working with us have been really, really good thus far.
That's amazing. So, and you have how many employees do you have now?
So at the moment, we've got about 12. So we got four teams, and each team has got three members.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And you're part of a team as well, right? So you started this business with a partner. But I think we should
Correct.
probably, and we definitely have to mention Eric, right? Because
Yeah,
I don't
most
think I did
definitely.
in any of the promotional stuff because we were promoting you. You're the one who said you would come on. But you're gonna have to mention him for sure. But let's
Definitely.
let's go back to the beginning first. So tell us about this. You were a musician. How did you get into music? And then what did that look like when you decided to make this transition?
Yeah, so to give you a little bit of a backstory, my parents are also both musicians, and I was probably about 15 years old when I started like really getting into music. I saw my dad play guitar, and I told him, man, you got to teach me how to do this. This is really cool. And obviously started listening to more rock bands, especially when you're a teenager, you're impressionable, and you just love the music, and it grabs you. And like once that bug first bites you, it's like you don't want to do anything else. And I always thought for the rest of my life I would be a musician, and I was teaching music. I was playing every weekend, and we were part of organizing shows, and we were so part of the music industry. And the music industry in South Africa is very small and intimate, and everybody knows everybody just because the way it's structured. And what happened from there on obviously was COVID came, and the gigs just started dropping one after the other. It was like a complete shock to all of us. Many musicians like had to pivot from there, either getting day jobs or starting jobs. And obviously, you mentioned Eric now a bit earlier on, but Eric is also a musician. He actually plays for Jesse Clegg, which is Johnny Clegg's son. And Johnny Clegg has actually reached quite a bit of international success. But, anyways, we ended up getting together, and I told Eric, I came up with this idea. we need to get people onto podcasts. There's a big need for this because like I think 30 or 40% of podcasts out there are interview based, and obviously people are using it as a marketing platform, businesses, individuals. So there's a lot of traction being created around this. And I told them, I think we can start getting our clients or potential clients onto podcasts and then just charge a fee. So during that March of 2020, we sat, I can still remember it was a cold, rainy day outside. And I was sitting by my window and we started building the website. We started putting together emails. We started getting all the business documents in place. And from there on, we just never looked back. It just grew and grew.
Wow. So you just came up with this idea. How do you launch it? How do you even start something like that? And how do you know when it's time to bring on help?
So we were actually very fortunate not to have to bring on help. Let me start on that side of the question, because I feel like Eric and I have such a diverse skill set where if he's really good at one part of the business, I supplement in the other ways where he's not so strong in. So we actually never had to get help. But at this stage, though, we are looking for mentors, and we're actually very fortunate to have some pretty high profile clients who have started many businesses, who are multimillionaires. And a lot of times we'll jump on a call with them and get some advice from them in like a bartering deal with maybe giving them a few podcasts or like giving them some discount on their service with us. So only up until this point now, recently, we've started getting a little bit of assistance, but help, I feel like we've naturally been able to solve the problems that we've come up against. So obviously every business, as any entrepreneurial business owner would know, there's always problems coming up. And I think a lot of it is just killing fires, killing
Right.
like the problems, you know? So yeah, luckily we haven't really had to go, hey, we need seriously help. But, and to answer your other question, how did we come up with this? There's quite a few other podcast agencies as well out there. So, but I think it's such a small niche still. I think there's only about 20 podcast agencies globally at the moment. So it's a quite open, ripe market, and everybody from Gary Vee to Grant Cardone, everybody either has their own podcast or is speaking as guests on podcasts. So there's obviously this big need and this gap for it, which we obviously were able to fulfill.
Right. Right. So when I asked about help, I meant like bringing in your first employees. But
Oh,
you brought up,
my
but
bad.
no, but you brought up a really different and equally important aspect, and that is that mentorship, that advisory thing, right? You're just two musicians making this up as you go along, and in some
Yeah.
ways, I think that there's probably magic to that. I think that when people enter the market and do it their own way, sometimes ignorance is like a gift, right? You don't
For
know what
sure.
everybody else thinks you need to know, and so you just go out there. But you also need the humility to reach out when I imagine when you started expanding with employees and things like that, these were very new territories for you. So I love how in the beginning you worked off each other in that partnership, and I definitely want to talk more about that. But then you were able to transition to, okay, now we do need to reach out. And by the way, you had been building this network of experts all around you. So I think that that's really really cool. So, but what about the employees? When you
Yeah.
that type help from that area, how do you know it's okay? It's time to hire somebody.
For sure. So obviously at the start, I was making most of the bookings, and when the business started, we didn't even know if this idea was going to work or anything. So we obviously started reaching out to some potential clients, and we were actually very fortunate to get really good response from people going forward. We obviously put a well copywritten email, and we started reaching out to people who have already been on podcasts, and we asked them, hey, we see that you've been on a podcast before. Would you like to be on more podcasts? We can help you get onto them. So from that point of the conversation, we had about 3 or 4 clients, and over at that stage, we actually realized, okay, we're going to need some help because I think it's a very popular topic as well, working on the business and working in the business.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to be working and spending all your time and hours working in the business, it's not going to grow. And you want the business to grow. So when we had about, I think it was 4 clients, we actually started asking around, and it actually happened so organically and so naturally. One of the girls working for us, Justine, who is the very first podcast connection employee that we got on board, she's still with us. Eric was part of a band called Red Helen, and the vocalist of the band's wife was looking for some part-time work. And also she was in the restaurant business and the entertainment business, as well as the catering and restaurant business took a big knock with COVID. So she was also telling Eric that, yeah, she's looking for something to do. And we said, well, let's bring her on board. And we got her on board, and she's been absolutely phenomenal. She's gotten some of our clients on massive shows in the relationship genres. So from there on, we started scaling with Catherine, which you actually know. I think Catherine reached out to you in 2020.
Yeah.
And yeah, Catherine is unfortunately not with us anymore, as she was studying to be a zoologist. And obviously that was more her field of expertise. But to come back to your question,
I guess that's why
started looking.
That's why she was able to deal with me so well. She was working with animals usually. She was absolutely amazing. She was absolutely amazing.
Yeah. No, she was incredible. She was really, really good. So I think after the business was about 3 to 4 months old, we started getting help.
Yeah.
To get back to the root of your question.
Yeah. And I love the theme of like this network that you have, and reaching out to that network, from your partner to your advisors to your employees. They all seem to, at least in the beginning, come from that network that you had built. And I think that there's so much value in that. So here you are now as leading a team of 12 individuals who are relying on you, at least partially, for their paycheck if they're part-time, right? But really relying on you. And you're used to just getting on a stage and jamming and sort of relying on your own talents to an extent. What has been the biggest challenge for you, and or the biggest surprises, being on this side of that transition as a leader?
I guess the biggest challenge has been to do something that I've never done before, but at the same time, being in a band or being a musician, you're always interacting with people. So I think I've built up good social skills and the ability to also lead. Sometimes you have to be in a band and you actually have to lead the band. You have to tell them, well, we're going to take this direction, or we're going to arrange this differently like this. And also being in a band, you have to be in unity 100%, because if a band is not on the beat or tight, then it doesn't sound good. So you can actually take a lot of examples from musicians, like the discipline and a lot of the great traits musicians have, and apply those traits in business, which is something that we like to often compare. So yeah, but I think definitely the biggest challenge has been doing something that we haven't ever done before. And when you haven't done something, you second guess yourself, and you've got that imposter syndrome. And sometimes you feel like you're not a good enough leader, like you should be investing more time into the agents. And the other thing that I've learned as well that is really, really great is always doing the work that your agents or your employees are also doing, and showing them that you're also there to get your hands dirty. We still make bookings. We still get on Zoom calls with our clients. There's nothing that anybody does that I don't do as well. And even Eric.
Yeah. So you said even Eric. So, and you've alluded to this difference in your personalities. Could you expand on that? Because you're talking about being part of a band, right? And how it takes synchronizing all of that and working together. And I definitely want to get into your perspective on teams in general, because I know that that's someplace you've taken your business. But that all started with your partnership with Eric. Could you talk a little bit more about how exactly you complement each other, and where that might be frustrating at times and also rewarding at times?
Yeah, most definitely. So I think the best place to start, and a lot of people will tell you, don't do business with friends, because obviously if the business ends up going south, or if the business fails or something goes wrong, you might end up losing a friendship, and that is definitely a reality. So I think a good place to start off, if you're going to go into business with a friend, is just honesty at all times. And also, if there is a problem, address the elephant in the room. Don't let something just slide underneath the carpet for too long, because otherwise you might get upset or start building animosity towards your business partner. So it's almost like a marriage in a big sense. You have to just communicate. So that's very important. But Eric and I are very, very different. I'm more of an impulsive, extroverted person, and he's a little bit more of a social introvert, and he doesn't, but he's starting to actually adapt really well as well. So I'm picking up a lot of skills from him, and he's picking up some skills from me too. So in that sense, when we're spending a lot of time with each other, and sometimes I'll encourage him, like, jump on this meeting with me, meet this client, talk to these people, and he's starting to really, really get good at those facets as well. So before, I used to do more of the sales. Like, I've got no problem jumping on a call and chatting with a stranger and trying to sell this person on $2,000 per month or something like that. Right. Where to some people that's very daunting, going on a call and getting objections and getting all these people ask like evasive questions and doubting your business. So I'm very comfortable handling that, and I know exactly how to handle that. But some people get obviously a little bit more intimidated. So in that regard, I think I was naturally a little bit stronger towards building relationships with people, getting the first few clients before our word of mouth started happening, and before we started doing a bit more paid marketing and such. But Eric is very strong at being an integrator, and we love reading this book called Rocket Fuel, which is the combination between integrator and visionary. So a lot of times I'll be thinking of ideas pie in the sky 2 years, 3 years ahead, and he'll be telling me, whoa, you got to slow down. We still have to focus on what we're doing on the ground right now. You can't focus on what we're going to eventually do in the sky. So but the great chemistry with that is you've constantly got somebody who wants to propel the business forward, while at the same time you've got somebody who's focusing on the nuts and bolts and the nitty-gritty details that a business needs to be able to continue existing. So I think in that regard, we complement each other very well. And obviously we do like have disagreements, and then the best thing for disagreements is just sometimes compromise again. And I'm going to use the analogy of marriage again. Sometimes you just have to swallow your pride and say, okay, well, let's do things this way. I'm going to trust you. And obviously that goes both ways. And when you're struggling with a decision going forward, because you're two business partners, it's sometimes a good idea to also maybe get a mentor's advice going forward, or maybe a third person who is respectable or has had experience in the direction which you're planning to move forward in.
Right. I really appreciate the way you talk about this dynamic conflict, this dynamic tension, and we know that task conflict is actually good for an organization. Relationship conflict is bad for organizations. But what the research also shows us is that it's really hard to have one without the other. So when you introduce task conflict, a lot of times it's hard for people not to take that personal. So how have you, the two of you, set up any sort of systems or any sort of cultural norms or processes to like sort of make sure that you don't take it personal, or to make amends after maybe you're fighting something out?
Yeah, definitely. So Matt, I think Eric is just such a great guy in that sense, because even sometimes you'll get upset and you'll get stressed, or a lot of times we're so stressed because of the business, because of demands, because of quotas needing to be met, and then we end up taking it out on each other, because if I mess up something or he messes up something, or a process or a application or something isn't working, and we're working together, and you get into each other's hair a little bit, and you start raising your voice, and you can see the other person is getting flustered and everything. But always, even after we'll have, let's call it an argument, there will be repentance, and we'll say, sorry man, I'm just stressed, or listen, I can't do this without you. Or it will always be something along those lines where we'll make right, even if we exchange some harsh words. Like, we've never called each other anything bad, but like, even when you've had a heated argument, yeah, we will always apologize and make things right. There'll never be animosity, and we'll try to keep work separately as well, because I believe first and foremost we're friends, and then we're business partners, and that's important. Keeping the friendship alive, and even just hanging outside of work as well.
Yeah, that's so trying to keep that role conflict when this person is everything in your life, right? I mean, they're your friend and they're your business partner, and trying to keep that separate. I can't. I think it really speaks to your maturity as a young leader to be able to do that and to figure that out. The two of you to figure that out. I think that that's really amazing. We do have a question in the chat that I want to throw up here. Juanita asks, would you agree that it's necessary for team members to have different levels of ambition to challenge each other, but also help each other stay focused? And I think this sounds like it's very much related to what you were talking about, rocket fuel. Who writes that? Because that's a great resource, I think, for all of us.
Hang on, I'll let you know in a second. I used to know the author. It is... Just see, it's good to have a computer here on the sideline.
Yeah, so rocket fuel, the way
second.
you were describing it sounds a lot like my marriage, right? So
Yeah.
my wife is a realist, so I say, here's what I'm going to do, and she looks at me and says, are you crazy? But then I have to defend my idea to her, so by the time it's like been worked through, now I've got a better idea of it, and it's a little bit more realistic, and I think that balance is incredibly valuable. I know it is in our relationship. It sounds like
sure.
in your partnership as well.
Yeah, so the writers of Rocket Fuel is Gino Wickman and Mark Winters, and they actually made a study of quite a few of these relationships, and like, I can't remember who was Henry Ford's business partner, but he also talks about this relationship of an integrator and a visionary. And also, I think McDonald's and the business partner in McDonald's, they were also a visionary and an integrator combo. And some of the most successful businesses that have ever existed have been this power duo of an integrator and a visionary. And like you said as well, you and your wife might also be that exact same thing. It's like sometimes the realistic person and also the ambitious person. And once the ambitious person, which is the visionary, comes up with an idea that can't be poked, that holes can't be poked through, then the other partner would say, this sounds like a good idea, let's run with it. And they've got the patience and the know-how and the mind to set everything up, and even think about the small details and, like I said, nuts and bolts that you overlook sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's in my experience, it seems like it requires people who are very confident in their views, because you need to be confident enough to be open to others, but maybe also stubborn a little bit, because otherwise, one half overpowers the other half, and if one half is always conceding, then you're not getting that dynamic tension and growing from it. So what about this? Would you describe it as two different levels of ambition, or is it just a different form of ambition?
Yeah, I would say it's different levels of ambition, or not levels, different kinds of ambitions. So a lot of times Eric will have ambitions in like taking what we already have and making it better. Mm-hmm. And I'll have ambitions on adding on to what we have. So I think that a lot of times comes into play as well. And I'll sometimes get a bit frustrated because I feel like we're not building on the business quick enough, but Eric will get frustrated because he feels like the processes in the business isn't growing fast enough. It's not becoming rock solid, or like like a well-oiled engine quick enough.
Mhm.
So there will be all these and that's a lot of times where we also end up having tension because we've got different ambitions. But I feel both ambitions are important. You need to have that R&D. You need to be coming up with newer ideas, revolutionizing your business, becoming the leader in what you're doing, coming up with new ways of doing this. And then once again, you also need to have that ambition of taking what you already have and just making it better and better and better.
Yeah. So what are the two again? And within the rocket fuel book, do they have a name for those two types? What?
Yeah. So it's your visionary and your integrator.
Cool. I want to know. I want to know from people that are watching live, and also if you're catching the replay, put in there hashtag visionary or hashtag integrator. The visionary is the one, the dreamer, right? The big ideas, the one to
Yeah.
grow, and they're always coming up with new insane ideas, right?
Yeah.
Arguably insane.
And you can actually do a test. Like they've
Yeah.
got a test on their website where you can test yourself, am I more a visionary or an integrator?
Interesting. Awesome. Awesome. I already know what I am. That's I tend to hit the extreme on every test I take.
Yeah.
So and then the integrator is somebody who is more would you say conscientious, more like focused on the daily tasks and maintaining
100%.
instead of expanding? That's yeah,
100%.
cool. So hashtag integrator or hashtag visionary. I'd love to know what how people identify. Um, so you've got the two of you, very different, and you know how to work out the dynamics in your relationship. What does this look like for your teams? How do uh, they interact with the two of you? Do you have one of you as a point person? Do they take advantage sometimes and work one of you against the other? What does that look like?
So luckily, most of our agents have not tried that yet because I think they know that we make a lot of the decisions together and we discuss a lot of things together. So, excuse me. So they have not tried to take advantage of us yet. Like I always think of this mom dad
Yeah.
scenario where you ask the dad and the dad says no, you go ask the mom. But
Yeah.
I think what we've established or what we've tried to establish from the start is roles. And the actually Rocket Fuel also talks about this, having major business functions and having people take responsibility for one or the other major business functions. So we've tried to establish this from the start and tell them, like, if you want to know more about this, or if you've got a question about, like, let's say for instance clients, you got to ask me. And if you've got a problem with maybe some internal thing that isn't working, or like let's say software we're using that isn't working, Eric's your guy. So we've tried to establish that from the start. Otherwise they end up asking the both of us, because whoever's going to respond the quickest is going to help them the best. So yeah, but within the business, obviously we've got the at the start we had our agents do 3 roles, and what they would do is they would have to play a researcher, they would have to be like a copywriter talking to podcasts, and they'd have to know a little bit of client relations, being able to talk to a client and be able to manage their expectations and sell the show to them, all these kind of things. So what we've done now is we've come up with a new dynamic of having a 3-person team, where you've got the researcher who's also playing a little bit of a team manager role, and then you've got the host relations, where the person is reaching out on a day-to-day basis, copywriting emails to hosts, proposing our clients as guests, and then we've got the client relations person who would be then in contact with the clients. So, and these teams have been working really, really well for us, because we're able to actually give them more clients, which they can handle. And then what we also try to do is we try to train them in specific ways of honing in on their skills. And we're also looking at their natural, what do they call them, talents. And we try to position them in a way where they're going to fulfill the role best.
That's great. And so the teams communicate with each other, and then they communicate to you and Eric, and they know which silos, so they'll know which kind of question goes to who. Have you found that this helps with reducing that overload of emails and things coming through? Because I know in a virtual environment, especially a virtual environment where everybody has so much going on in their lives with COVID and all the things that have come from that, um, do you find that this has, in a way, lessened the noise, like the distraction from the actual work, or does it? I guess I could also see how it might add more bureaucracy in a way because everybody needs to work together more instead of being independent.
Yeah, so we use Slack and an app called Finisher, which is pretty great. And once again, Eric is the
Right.
he loves technology and he loves finding solutions for these things. So ever since we've been using Slack, the teams are together on Slack, and obviously we have access to all the Slack channels, so we can see all the conversations going on there, and we'll usually throw an eye over it. But I must say, I think not Eric as much, but I easily get overwhelmed with too much communication happening. Like for me, I focus on one thing, I get it done, I move on to the next thing, where sometimes I'll be busy with one task and 6 emails will come in, 40 Slack messages, and it gets hard to focus on what you're trying to focus on if there's so much digital communication going on. So I guess we do get overwhelmed with these things, and I think well, I can't speak for Eric, but I definitely do. And luckily with the teams, they've got 2 or 3 or maybe 5 clients that they're managing, and their communication is within their team. So they're not really being exposed to all of the craziness, all of the overloads.
That's great. So I guess your next step will be to create some other layers in there to sort of tackle some of those emails. Although you mentioned a book, I'm gonna recommend a book for you and the viewers as well. This is Cal Newport's new book, A World Without Email.
Oh,
The guy's a little bit of a Luddite, like he does not love technology, which is evident in all of his
okay.
books. But without ruining the ending, he's a big proponent of things like Trello, those little boards that you can
Yeah.
move things through so that you go on when you're available instead of Slack pinging all the time. And I think especially within the context of remote teams, it makes a lot of sense because you're trying to strike that work-life balance and it becomes really complicated. Um, so let's talk about that for a second because talk about
Yeah.
remote. So you start this, it's a new baby, right? This new business, and you're entrusting these people that, at least your first couple employees coming from your network, and you know them, they're fellow South Africans, right, for the most part. And then you're like,
Yeah.
you know what? See ya. What was your next what was your next step there? You picked up and did what? I don't want to ruin it for people.
Yeah. No, 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 not at all. So obviously, when we started the business, I was still currently residing in South Africa, and then opportunity came along to move to Dubai, which is also pretty cool. And when I got here, it's like nothing ever changed, and I guess that's how powerful it is to have a working environment that all happens virtually or digitally. You don't need to have an office. You can jump on weekly Zoom calls. You can WhatsApp or text somebody at any time. It's really I feel like the only businesses that still need to have a physical office is people that need to do physical work and get together to work together on projects where they're I don't know, there might be many other businesses that I can't think of at the moment, but even my wife's business, they're able to work from home. I don't know why they force them to work in the office. They've
Yeah.
got to sit in traffic for an hour and a half every day. It doesn't make sense. So I think it doesn't make any sense to do that if you're able to have a remote workforce. So, but to answer your question, it's like nothing ever changed when I got here. It's only a time difference and the fact that they work Sunday to Thursdays over here.
Yeah. So so wait, so I want to go back to what you said because I've been working with a lot of different clients on this exact issue. This moving toward remote work, some of them and some of them like blended hybrid teams. And one of the things that I constantly hear is what about the culture? Right? So I want to know to somebody who like they're I know what it is to have a brand new business. It is like it quickly becomes part of your identity, and you love it, and you nurture it, right? Um, so I want to know from your mouth, what is work culture to you? What does that mean? And how do you maintain that um, in a remote environment?
Yeah, so I'm going to be honest with you. Sometimes I feel like we can do better because sometimes I feel like all we focus on is work, 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 quotas, quotas, and the clients wants this, the client wants that, and we don't put enough effort into culture. So sometimes I try to engage at the end of the month and get everybody on a Zoom call. We play Pictionary, like online Pictionary, where we're playing a game together, and people love it. We're laughing and we're having a ball. And I'm trying to get the people together now, end of this year, to get together and meet each other for the first time. And generally, with the culture, I'm always trying to create a light atmosphere, and I'm trying to get people to laugh, or I'm trying to get people to share or open up. But one thing we do every so often is we try to talk about the win of the week. We ask the agents, cool, so what was your win of the week? And maybe if you have a teachable or a shareable moment of what helped you in your success, you can share it with the rest.
Great. So, staying on this theme of this remote culture, and also going back to what you were talking about with your transformation toward teams, now you've got these teams of three all relying on each other for their income, basically, right? Um, how do you build trust in a remote environment? Do you see issues with that? Is there a process that you've noticed that people have to go through to build trust, or has it not been a noticeable issue?
So trust has been something that I think we've been able to establish through our agents knowing somebody else. So most of our agents who's worked for us have been agents that we personally know or their networks. So a lot of times we've got friends working together, we've had sisters work together, we've had so many of the girls that we've employed have actually said, "Hey, I've got a friend. She's also in need of work. Are you able to accommodate more people?" And we love it. We like bring them on because as soon as they come on, the friend gets them excited about it and maybe teaches them one or two things or coaches them a little bit if they need some additional information or help. So I think trust has been strongly encouraged through that, number one, and then number two, obviously having a contract in place, a strong business contract in place, stipulating exactly what will happen if the agents don't perform their work or if they just leave without warning or these kind of things. So I think we've got that legal element as well that contributes. But thus far, we have not had any problems with any of our agents. We've been super lucky.
That's great. And so do you see conflict in these virtual teams? Do you see and is there a process for managing that conflict?
Yeah, so I think that actually helps as well in a way with everybody working remotely. And although they're working in teams, it's like a chain that happens. First, this person has to complete his work, and then this person will then go on, and then the next person will go on. So as long as the one person does what they're supposed to be doing, the bookings gets made. But conflict within the teams, we've seen here and there where people feel the other person isn't carrying their weight, and then we'll obviously have to investigate. We log a lot of the information as well, like everything happens on Google Sheets. So we always make sure that we keep track of this so that if somebody isn't carrying their weight, we'll have a chat with them and ask them, listen, what's happening? Why are you not doing your work? You're letting your team down. And up to this point, that has only happened once, and after we had a chat, they started carrying their weight again. But generally we haven't really seen much conflict within our organization, and I think it's strongly due to them not being in each other's faces 24/7 or 7 days, 5 days a week.
Right. There's no opportunity to steal somebody else's lunch from the break room fridge. Right.
Exactly.
So so where does Podcast Connection go from here? You're the visionary. So Eric can hop on
Yeah.
another time and correct whatever you say, but where do you see what's the vision?
Yeah, so the vision is just to become the best, man. Whenever we talking, Eric and I, we try to innovate and we try to come up with ways of just scaling and also once again coming up with systems. And I think a lot of businesses are systems within systems. So we're always trying to come up with systems. I want to actually study some computer science next year. I want to get into programming and actually design an app for us where our clients will be able to go onto their app and they'll be able to get a notification. Hey, you got a booking. You can click there. You can see what the podcast is. You can then go ahead and accept the booking, confirm the booking. So that one side of the things, in the back end, having all of our agents work on a platform where it does like automatic reminders or just helps automate the work a little bit. So we're always joking, and nobody should take offense to this because we don't believe it, but it's just a joke. But we always say that automation is next to godliness.
Yeah.
So
Right.
so we're always looking at what we can do to just make our lives easier and make everybody's lives easier. So going forward, I guess we just want to scale. We want to be able to add more services. We want to be able to upgrade some more content and just grow, get more clients, and become the best. I guess that's our short to mid to long term.
I love it. I love your focus on development of the organization, but also on your own professional development. That is not, we're going to outsource this. Where it's that I'm going to go and I'm going to learn programming and I'm going to. That's a
Yeah.
real gift and probably has a lot to do with your success in the music industry and your ability to pivot to this and be successful here. So much of that is the grit. Where did you pick up that mentality that you know with growth and development and grit, that growth mindset? Where did you develop that from?
I think Eric and I are very similar in that sense. And I got it from my dad, always just doing whatever he puts his mind to. So my dad would, like, he went to the army and he was also a musician for a few years. And then he went into a furniture business where he built furniture. And then he gave music lessons, started a music school, went from that into a recording studio. The recording studio didn't work out. He ended up uh, going into videography and weddings. And yeah, so now they've got a business where they create probiotics, like natural probiotics. So I guess I've just always seen it from my dad. Like, he'll teach himself how to weld and he'll build his own speaker stands or his own work table, anything like that. So I think I picked that up from my dad. And even myself, I've got a very strong personality to gravitate to want to learn more. So I, for instance, love video editing. So a lot of the things that we can apply to our business comes from me being able to video edit, where Eric he's a Photoshop ninja. He can make you look like $1 million on Photoshop. So he's strong with that. Eric is great at building websites, where I'm a little bit more, I'm a content creator. I can maybe come up with some cool ideas for content. And yeah, it actually started where Eric and I had a YouTube channel together, and we quickly saw that we have strong contrasting but complementing skills and a similar mindset towards just whatever we need to learn, we'll take it as it comes. And if we can't figure it out, then I guess the next step is getting somebody else involved.
Wow. It seems clear to me that where others may see boundaries, you see opportunities, and I think that's definitely one of those keys to success, as being witnessed in your genesis as a leader over the past year and a half, or almost 2 years now. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So congratulations on all of your success. If people
Thanks so
want to
much.
get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that? Well, I can tell them one of the best ways is to take your phone, open the camera app, and hover it over Raymond's head, and you will be able to get a link directly to his LinkedIn. So that's one way. How else can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so if they want to, they can go ahead to our website, which is podcastconnection.org, and they can come and check out our website if they're interested in speaking on the shows, on podcasts. And they can just follow me on Facebook or on LinkedIn, anywhere where they'd like to. There's always interesting stories and interesting videos to share. So I hope my profile is entertaining for anybody who follows me. But yeah, you're more than welcome to follow me over there. And if you really, really want to see the origin of Eric and I, my relationship, they can go to our YouTube channel, which we had a few years ago, and it's called RR Guitar Community. So over there, we teach people how to play guitar.
Cool, because you got off easy, and I realized that after we had our pre-call, last time we had a musician on here, Rick Lozano, we made him play a song for us, and it looked like he couldn't play guitar, so he got off easy. But we still learned a ton, and this has been amazing. We're going to come right back to you for final thoughts, and also we would love if you have some sort of homework for us, something that we could do that's helped you, similar to what's helped you grow over these past 2 years. But next week, I hope that everybody can tune back in. I'm going to be here with Linda Swindling. She is a negotiation expert, speaker, consultant, trainer. She is an absolute expert when it comes to negotiation. Thankfully, she went easy on me when I was negotiating with her to come on this show. So she will be here next Wednesday. So please tune in when we discuss Ask Outrageously. Get what you want by being assertive. How do we negotiate the negotiations in our daily lives and profession? So back to Raymond. Any last words? The final thoughts, I should say. Last word sounds...
Yeah, once again, thank you so much for having me. It's been a real blast. I think I was telling you the other day, you remind me so much of my friend in the US, Mark Montague. He's also from Jewish descent, so it really feels like I'm talking to one of my best friends in America. It's been great to be on your live broadcast. And yeah, final thoughts, I would say, if you are interested in doing something, starting a business idea, even if you've done 5 or 10 other business ideas that haven't worked out, you just have to keep on persisting. Just have that endurance and that resilience, and just keep on striving until you find a business idea that is, number 1, bringing you fulfillment, and number 2, bringing in the ka-ching.
Right. 2 halves to the whole. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is amazing. And Mark Montague, we're signing off, so it's nice. I hope Mark tunes in and is not insulted that you've made that comparison. Once somebody says you remind me so much of my friend, I'm kind of nervous to meet the friend. I don't know whether I'll be impressed or not. It's like looking at him.
No, he's amazing. He's incredible.
Well, thank you all for tuning in today. Whether you were here on LinkedIn, Facebook, any of those other platforms, we truly appreciate it. And if you're watching the replay, please let us know that you were here. Comment as you're watching, and we will stay active in all the chats on the different platforms. Let's keep this conversation going. Please reach out to Raymond if you have any questions. If you're a budding entrepreneur, if you're a thought leader looking for more exposure, I can tell you that Podcast Connection, they're the real deal. They will help you get on some amazing shows, some even better than WaterCooler Wednesday, and they really are amazing with what they do. They have a truly engaged team. So they are the real deal. Thank you so much, Raymond, and thank you all. And until next time.